Welcome to European Railway, line by line Germany, as we study trains and traction through the southern Rhein Gorge. Our filming took place over a period of 2 years from 2014 to 2016. The map shows the main locations of our filming positions, which were used throughout this programme. We venture south to Assmannhausen and on to Hirzenach in the north. The programme begins high above the town of Oberwesel, on the west bank of the river. It gives an instant impression of the type of landscape and the views that are on offer in this spectacular part of the country. Heading south on the west bank is this Class 101 on one of the regular intercity workings that can be seen on this line. The train is the 0634 from Emden to Konstanz and heads south at just before 20 to 12 on Friday the 3rd of October 2014. One thing that becomes apparent as the train passes through the town of Oberwesel is the overall narrowness of the river valley. The towns with their castles and churches, the vineyards, the roads and the railway all compete for the thin strip of space between the steep slopes and the river at the bottom. The river here is one of the most difficult parts in which to navigate, with the flow of water particularly fast, and where in many places the safe deep channel is quite narrow. Many of the bigger barges are several thousand tons in weight and carry a wide range of cargoes, from bulk goods to containers. There is also a significant amount of passenger boats on the river, more of which we will see later on in the programme. Along this part of the river there are many castles and fortresses, typified with this tower, one of 16 that make up the town's wall, and which dates from the 12th century. Heading south is a Belgium Class 28 locomotive on a rake of hoppers from Ghent. You can expect at least one loco-hauled intercity train per hour in each direction. These services are mainly booked to run on the west bank, but occasionally work on the parallel east bank. This is more likely to happen at weekends, when maintenance usually occurs. However, there are a few booked turns on a weekday on the east bank. including train IC 2415. The train we see here is the 937 from Stuttgart to Hamburg, better known as train IC 2218. In the opposite direction is mixed freight train number EZ 51311 from Gremberg Yard to Mannheim, headed by a Class 185. As a general rule, most of the slower mixed wagon freight services use the East Bank line, which is seen across the river, but on this occasion the train is using the West Bank line. This is St Martin's Church, which because of its high position was also used as a military installation. Note the tower, which has been extended in height as a fortification. Also very common on this line are intermodal freight services, particularly those running from Italy to and from the North Sea ports or to terminals in the busy Ruhr area of Germany. 186106 is seen heading north. The occurrence of older traction on this line has diminished over the past few years, with just a handful of services utilising Class 139, 140 or 151 traction, with the occasional Class 155 working to and from Mannheim. One working that does produce older traction is the daily Henkel beauty train for the company Schwarzkopf. It operates from Langenfeld to the north of Köln to Wassertrudingen. Here an unidentified Class 140 heads the train south at 12:55. On this occasion the train was running about 3 hours late. We now descend to track level as one of the local stopping services operated by private company Transregio Deutsche under the banner Mittelrheinbahn heads towards the camera formed of unit numbers 460001 and 460017. Heading north is 152009. The crossing here, just north of the town, offers a good vantage point for watching or photographing trains in either direction. Heading south with the 0732 from Hamburg to Frankfurt is number 101074. The majority of freight trains seen in the valley are hauled by Class 185s, this example being 185268. There are plenty of locomotives in private ownership, where many of these are on hire to shipping companies and freight forwarders. Number 482028 belongs to SBB Cargo, but was, and still is, on hire to HTRS Nederland, who are based in Rotterdam. On this day, freight trains were running between 5 and 10 minutes apart. Here 185015 heads south with train EZ 51341 from Gremberg to Kornwestheim. The steep valley sides here are popular with rock climbers. Just ahead of the barge in the far distance is Loreley, a rocky outcrop, famed for its rocky sides and the ability to hear the river below murmuring as it passes by through a very narrow part of the gorge, as well as the historic spirit of the heartbroken maiden who supposedly lured sailors onto the rocks. We continue with the action, as we see one of two more trains from this location. This one is headed by 101107. One 85284 is next to come into view with a southbound intermodal. We shall come back to Oberwesel later on in the programme. In part 2, we head to the southern part of the gorge, just north of the wine town of Rüdesheim. Beginning at Assmannhausen, we stop off at various locations on the east bank of the line up to the small town of Lorch. We begin on the morning of Saturday the 3rd of October 2015, as we look across to the west bank, where we see this view of the 0808 from Mannheim to Noordijk-Müller, powered by 101-021. The river is home to hundreds of European great cormorants. This gathering is seen resting on a local sandbank, in between fishing duties. They are completely used to the barges that constantly ply up and down the river, only metres away in some instances. This is Rheinstein Castle. It was designed by architect Johann Claudius and was built in the beginning of the 14th century, being mainly used as a summer residence. Today it houses a hotel and restaurant. One of BLS's 10 Class 486 locomotives heads north with this container train. Private operator VIAS runs local passenger services on the East Bank line from Neuwied to Frankfurt and back using a mixture of new 3 and 4 car Flirt EMUs built by Stadler. This pair of 3 car units are on the 0737 from Neuwied. The river is generally at its lowest in September and October, which results in many of the sand and shingle banks becoming exposed. However, the height of the river can vary immensely. Compare our 2015 view with this one taken on Friday the 24th of June 2016. Weeks of heavy rain have added at least another 2 metres to the height of the water. A Class 152 is seen heading south on the West Bank line. 145019 heads a northbound train of Audi cars at just before 9:30. We've changed our position now, and we are on one of the feeder roads that run through the numerous vineyards along this part of the gorge. Looking towards the village of Assmannhausen, this unidentified Class 152 heads north at 10 o'clock. Just visible on the hillside above the train is Reichenstein Castle, which is also a hotel, restaurant and museum. It dates back to the 11th century. To the right of the quarry is Hirzenach Castle, again dating from the 11th century. It was used by the chatelains to conduct raids and force tolls to be levied on passing ships, until this was stopped by King Rudolf of Habsburg in 1282. It then belonged to one robber after another, until it was destroyed in 1689 before being rebuilt 150 years later. Today it is a popular destination, with wonderful views of the river, together with its magnificently equipped interiors, wonderful paintings and precious 19th century furniture. The Henkel Beauty Train is seen once again, this time with 139287 in charge. Just 5 minutes later, and 185235 heads north with the following intermodal. At its height there were 215 toll stations on the Rhine, most run by robbers and bandits. This meant that river traffic was both expensive and very slow. When these were removed, traffic levels rose sharply, and today it is one of the busiest rivers in Europe, feeding the German inland industrial areas with the port of Rotterdam. The navigational distance of the river is 540 miles, from Rotterdam in the Netherlands to just east of Basel in Switzerland. A Class 152 is seen hauling a Class 185 on this northbound mixed freight at exactly 10:30 on the 24th of June 2016. By now, the northbound trains were catching each other up and were being checked by adverse signals. We now move slightly south, as this unidentified Class 482 heads north with another intermodal from Italy. The vines in this area generally produced Riesling white wine, but on these slopes it is one of the rarer local red wines that is produced. The wine is not generally exported from this region and is only available in the wine shops around Rüdesheim. Pinot Noir Barrique is a good example, being produced by Drossel Kellerei. This is the 0529 from Passau to Hamburg, powered at the rear by 101097. A Class 185 rounds the curve powering train EZ 51389 from Grimberg to München. Heading south is the 0918 from Köln to Innsbruck. This is another view of Reichenstein Castle. Rhine cruises are another popular holiday choice. Typical of some of the boats used can be seen here. As already mentioned, throughout the 11th century, many of the castles along the river were home to robber knights, who lay massive chains across the river, blocking the passage of boats, only to be released by the payment of tolls. This uncontrolled robbery was only halted in 1282 when Emperor Rudolf destroyed Reichenstein Castle and had the robbers put to death. Many were killed near to St. Clement's Chapel, the spire of which can be seen just to the left of this Class 185 headed freight. Heading north around 1 kilometre, we see this northbound freight powered by Class 145 number 027. It is passed by a pair of Class 185s on a southbound coal train. In the right background is the town of Lorch, whilst Bacharach can be seen in the far distance on the left of the river at the foot of the hills. Moving to the bottom of the slope, we see Class 189, number ES 64F4094, heading north on the 3rd of October 2015. VIS operate 14 of these 4-car Stadler units and 5 3-car for their local services. This is set number 414. By now, some of the leaves on the trees were just starting to turn as autumn approaches. DN Regio ordered 28 of these Class 4291 Flirt 3 units from Stadler in 2014 for services in Rhineland-Pfalz. This pair are seen heading south with a service for Mainz. (101.057 and 077 on the rear form the 0726 from Stuttgart to Stralsund. A pair of Class 460 units head south on the West Bank line. On average, you can expect 3 freights in each direction per hour, although this can vary depending on the time of the day. The east bank is generally the busiest for freight. Heading this block train south is 185069. Photography on the East Bank line is best in the morning, before the sun moves around. In October, when these pictures were taken, this happens at around 11 AM. Seen leading the 0947 from Wiesbaden to Koblenz is unit number 428642 or set number 408. Originally delivered to Siemens Dispelok on 22nd of September 2000, number ES64U2100 was sold to Hupac, Switzerland, just 3 months later. It is seen here on hire to Wiener Lokalbahnen and heads north on the 3rd of October 2015. (101040) heads down the West Bank line with the 0737 from Dortmund to Zurich. This train uses Swiss passenger stock. In this section we cross the river to the west bank and to our camera position just to the north of the town of Bacharach. Diesel units are fairly rare on this stretch of track, so when Class 628s, numbers 498 and 417 headed north on the 3rd of October 2014, it was a bit of a surprise. In the opposite direction are units 460, 013 and 016 on a service from Köln to Mainz. Note the cobbled road on the left. The remains of the town's walls play host to 3 rail enthusiasts as they prepare to photograph a booked working of a Class 103 electric, due down later in the morning. Heading north are 460 003 and 4. 185009 is seen next on a southbound freight. Heading north again now, and we are opposite Kaub, just where the car ferry ramp descends to the river on the west bank. Passing our location is diesel locomotive number 213340, a V100 built by MAK in 1966. "103235 was making one of its regular appearances along the route, heading the 0727 from Münster to Innsbruck. This is Gutenfeld's castle, which is situated above the town of Kaub, located on the east side of the river. Heading a train of coal hoppers from Oberwesel to Mannheim is 185547. In the middle of the river is Pfalzgrafenstein toll station. We wanted to show you the difference in the height of the river between this, the October 2015 view, and the June 2016 level seen here. With water spotting out of the way, it's back to the trains. We cross the river again to the east bank and to the station here at Kaub on Saturday the 3rd of October 2015 as 428, 643 and 635 slow for the station stop, forming the 0953 from Frankfurt to Neuwied. "185215 is in the process of being slowed via the station loop, having run wrong line to allow the previous Class 428s to overtake. The train is number EZ51860 from Mannheim to Grünberg Yard in Köln. Right behind is 185298 on train KT 41600 from Gallarate in Italy to News Freight Yard. The Gutenfels Castle, seen on the hill, was owned by the Falkenstein family back in 1257 and is one of the most important examples of the Hohenstaufen military and house construction style on the Rhine River. From 1277 it was subsumed into the ownership of the Palatinati state. An unsuccessful siege in 1504 led to the castle being renamed as Gutenfels, or Solid Rock. Rebuilt between 1889 and 1892, it is today used as a hotel. Heading south is SNCB's Class 186 Electric number 2817, heading train DGS 42517 from Antwerpen Noord to Passau. 186102 heads south on train 40031 from Rotterdam Walhaven to Melzo. Our penultimate shot from this station features 152-155, heading north with a combined piggyback and intermodal service from Italy. Our final scene sees the arrival of 428645 on a service from Frankfurt to Neuwied. In part 4, we remain on the eastern side of the river as we continue our journey north to Loreley before crossing the river once more to Hirzenach. The date is the 24th of June 2016, and once again we can see the high river level as this Class 101 heads intercity train number EC9, the 0646 from Hamburg to Zurich. A kilometre to the north and we see 482018. The sky began to look threatening, and this was the build-up to some very heavy rain, which lasted right through the night. Heading south is 3-car class 427 unit number 653. The following morning and the results of the night's torrential rain saw this derailment opposite Kaub. 429026 was working an early morning Koblenz to Frankfurt service when it hit rocks which had slid down the waterlogged embankment. Unfortunately, the driver received serious injuries and 10 passengers were also injured. The line remained closed all day. The only line left in use was on the east bank, with just one of the tracks in operation due to the risks of further rockfalls. An hourly service was in place between Neuwied and Frankfurt. This train is seen passing Loreley. Some intercity trains were routed via the gorge before the line was partly closed, including this one, headed by 101056. Austrian 1116176 is working the heavily delayed 2124 service from Vienne to Düsseldorf. A change of date and location now, as we journey across the river and up to Hirzenach on a sunny 3rd of October 2015. Heading towards the camera are Class 460 units number 13 and 16 on a stopping service for Mainz. On the opposite side of the river is the town of Kestert, which is seen here beyond the barge. Looking south, the river bends away to the left. The main roads on either side of the water are busy in the summer, but almost empty in winter. Whilst filming the river, our next train caught us completely by surprise. Steam Loco 012066 and support coach head away from the camera working as DLR 80401 from Bochum-Dahlhausen to Ettlingen West. Just a few minutes later, and Class 401 ICE unit number 061 heads south, forming the 0932 from Hamburg to Frankfurt. Our final scene shows a Class 428 unit shortly after leaving the station at Kestert, on its way from Neuwied to Frankfurt. Part 5 of this programme is a return to Oberwesel, this time to the station on the 3rd of October 2014. Towering to the left of the main station buildings and dominating the town is the Gothic church of Our Lady, where work began on the building in 1308. Heading south is 189081. "152-123 appears from around the corner with a mixed freight from Gremberg Yard in Köln to Mannheim. The appearance of Class 151 electrics on the Rhine Valley lines could probably be counted on one hand these days. Here 151-163 enters the loop in order to let other trains pass, whilst working empty hoppers from Mannheim to Oberwesel. (101-006) rounds the corner whilst heading the 0601 service from Emden to Konstanz. This was followed by Rail Pools 186-104 on a Venlo to Melzo service. The town's walls are now open to the public and offer a good vantage point for watching the passing trains. 151-163 is seen resuming its journey north. (101-102) is about to pass with a Dusseldorf to Zurich Eurocity service. In the opposite direction, 185366 heads north with an intermodal service from Italy. We now fast forward 12 months to the 3rd of October 2015 as 401015 heads north past 2 of the town's wall's 16 turrets, with the 1344 Frankfurt to Hamburg ICE service. "101015 heads north with the 1240 intercity service from Heidelberg to Emden. Sister locomotive 101087 passes in the opposite direction, with train number IC2313, the 0832 from Hamburg to Stuttgart. High above the town is situated Schönberg Castle, now nearly 1,000 years old, and which today is a hotel. On the opposite bank, number 152149, is glimpsed working train KT 41054 from Piacenza to Wuppertal-Langerfeld. It's not uncommon to see convoys of light locomotives running north between Mannheim and Grimberg Yard, when there are no balancing workings. However, you can also see locomotives included in freight train formations, such as this one with 185056, hauling 152131, 185143 and 152028. This is another view of the Pfalzgrafenstein toll station at Kaub, seen from the hills high above Oberwesel. We return to where we began the programme as we take a final look at trains heading along this picturesque part of the German countryside. Heading north on the 23rd of June 2016 is an unidentified Class 182 Taurus Electric on one of the common intermodal services that are routed via this valley. Heading down the eastern bank of the river, past the now closed Loreley station, is this unidentified Class 185. The size of the river and the associated valley dwarf the train as it heads south at just before 4 p.m. The train is about to pass through the 459 metre long Rostein tunnel. We close the programme now with this superb view out across the town of Oberwesel and onwards towards Kaub, which is seen in the distance on the left-hand side of the river. Heading north is a Class 189 on an intermodal service from Italy. As the trains disappear from view, we hope that you have enjoyed watching this programme, featuring trains along the southern Rhein Gorge.